morning, everybody. Okay. Let's see here. All right, it is Saturday, June 17, 11:03 a.m. Hope everyone's having a nice start to their weekend. Before we do anything, as always, 3 books from the bookshelf. So, let's see here. The first one is one that I was talking to Josh Kemble about maybe a couple weeks ago by I'm sorry, I was looking, there's 2 different names here. Julian Baggini and Jeremy Stangroom. Weird names. This is part of what made me pause. Do you think what you think you think? The ultimate philosophical handbook. For an ultimate philosophical handbook, it's not as thick as I would have guessed, but it claims to be, and I can't possibly put that on there unless it's true, right? So this is, I'll read the back description to summarize what this is. Is your brain ready for a thorough philosophical health check? The author of international bestseller, The Pig That Wants to Be Eaten, and his fellow founding editor of The Philosopher's Magazine have some thought-provoking questions about your thinking. Is what you believe coherent and consistent, or a jumble of contradictions? If you could design a god, what would he, she, or it be like? Can you spot the logical flaw in an argument, even if it's your own? And how will you fare on the tricky terrain of ethics when your taboos are under the spotlight? Here are a dozen philosophical quizzes guaranteed to make armchair philosophers shift in their seat. Use it on yourself, or better yet, put your friends and loved ones to the test. Addictive, challenging, surprising, refreshing sense of absurdity, of human rationale, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so basically it is different quizzes and questions, philosophical scenarios, designed to suss out how consistent or contradictory your philosophical / religious beliefs are. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and I actually, because I hadn't gone through this in years, knowing I was going to talk about it today, I went through the first quiz in the book. It's a 30-question quiz, the philosophical health check, where it asks you all these different questions. For example, the right to life is so... These are agree or disagree questions, okay? The right to life is so fundamental that financial considerations are irrelevant in any effort to save lives. Voluntary euthanasia should remain illegal. The possession of drugs for personal use should be decriminalized. So long as they do not harm others, individuals should be free to pursue their own ends, and so on and so on and so on. So you go through this quiz, you say agree or disagree, agree or disagree. Now, for someone like me, maybe some of you, that can be difficult. I don't know if the older viewers among us might remember that infamous Bill Clinton deposition video where he was asked some sort of question and his response was, well, it depends what your definition of is. So, and now, in Bill's case, it was sort of viewed as him being slippery, which maybe he was or maybe he wasn't. I don't even remember the context. But I tend to often have that sort of reaction to questions like this, where I'm always like, I'm very uncomfortable just accepting it as stated. I'm seeing all these weird little angles and edges and corners and depths to each little word in it. So it's always difficult for me to just do agree or disagree. People should not travel by car if they can walk, cycle, or take a train instead. Like it's very hard for me to say like I 100% agree or 100% disagree. I always see like, it's like, well, I mean, it depends. And are we talking about, and do you mean, and what if? Like I'm notorious for that. So when you're doing this, you kind of have to just, what do I mostly think? Do I mostly agree or mostly disagree? Anyway, did the 30 question quiz. And at the end, it's a little complicated to score because basically it's picking out for these two questions, if you didn't, for example, if you agree to both of these questions, that's a contradiction. Or if you agree to this one and disagree to that one, that's a contradiction. So you're looking at these like question pairs when you're scoring, and the number of conflicts you have determines how consistent or inconsistent your philosophical worldview is, in theory. I did this, like I said, last night because I hadn't done it in a while and I wanted to see. It had been long enough where it felt very new to me and I didn't remember really many or any of the questions. I discovered that of the, let's see, I had two tensions. Tensions are where there's sort of a contradictory thought pattern on a particular topic. Two tensions, zero, so zero is perfectly consistent with your thought and beliefs. Two is you seem to be an admirably consistent thinker, if not entirely so. And to give you an example of like an area I fell short, I had some contradictory beliefs. So the question, or agree or disagree. There are no objective moral standards. Moral judgments are merely an expression of the values of particular cultures. I generally agreed with that, okay? On the other hand, later, acts of genocide stand as a testament to man's ability to do great evil. I agreed with that as well. And arguably, you can't believe both. Either there are no objective moral standards, therefore genocide isn't a testament to great evil, or genocide is a testament to great evil, therefore there are some objective moral standards. That was a tension point in my philosophical hot takes during this quiz. That's what this book is, basically. It's fun. It obviously is light. Like, it lays out philosophical scenarios. It makes you come up with, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And it would lead to deeper conversations that you could probably have for the rest of your life. This more just exposes contradictions in your worldviews and things like that. It's a fun book. I recommend it, especially if you're at all interested in philosophy, or I would say being somewhat consistent in your beliefs and opinions and politics and whatever. Like if you would like to say that there's a skeleton to the way you think, this might help you get there. Okay. And we're gonna rock it to another side. Fist of the North Star, book 1. Fist of the North Star is one of my all-time favorite mangas. Also, I think the first anime I ever saw, and one of my maybe because it was the first, or maybe just because it's awesome, still one of my favorite animes of all. The original one. I know they've done like, and I mean the movie. The series is okay, but I prefer the movie, the original movie. There's at least one and maybe 2 more movies they made after that original. They keep going back, and I never liked those as much. I kind of like the edgy, gritty, kind of janky 80s anime over stuff they're doing today, as a general rule. Anyway, Fist of the North Star, if you're unfamiliar, first of all, how are you unfamiliar with Fist of the North Star? But if you somehow are, it's like Mad Max meets Mortal Kombat, kind of. It's this post-apocalyptic wasteland dominated by scavengers and highwaymen and thugs and warlords, and it's just everything's gone to shit. And there are also these people walking around that practice bizarro martial arts that can do devastating damage to a human body. It's very over the top, very violent, very ridiculous, and super, super cool. Anyway, like I said, I think if I had to pick between the original 80s 2-hour movie or whatever it is, hour-and-a-half movie, and the manga, I actually might, just for nostalgia reasons, I prefer the movie. But the manga is fantastic, and the art is fantastic. And this is just the first book. I think there's 6 or 8 or something. It's like any manga, it's this like giant series, which the movie kind of condenses into, I think the movie covers like the first 4 of these or something in a very abridged way. Anyway, let's see. I'm noticing chat. Let's see here. Good morning, Squatch. Mr. Lost. Dee Dee. Okay. And then for the last book, just a little light reading. Stephen Jay Gould's The Structure of Evolutionary Theory. It's only about 1,300 pages. Yes, I have read it. I'm not going to claim it was easy and not, a heavy-duty read. But not as daunting as you might think. As long as you're not intimidated by, and this is opening me up to all sorts of weird puns, weird, like, new direction puns. As long as you're not intimidated by the length, I think you can manage. It's Stephen Jay Gould, if you're not familiar, is, well, he's passed away, but he's a scientist that I consider on my Mount Rushmore with Carl Sagan and Stephen Hawking, and maybe, even though he's not a scientist, he's sort of an academic researcher, Joseph Campbell, as academics that are very high level, have their chops, that are able to articulate complicated scientific ideas in a very engaging, entertaining, interesting way to the masses. Stephen Jay Gould, I would say, if you're interested in any kind of science at all, just go to YouTube and look for interviews with him. He is wonderful to listen to. He's a great storyteller. He finds all sorts of very accessible analogies to talk about very complicated concepts, usually in evolution. That was his main area of focus, evolutionary biology. He, I thought, was a outstanding face of science, face of evolutionary science. He made it accessible. He was a gentleman. He was charming. He was folksy. He was just delightful, and it broke my heart when he died, almost on the same level as Carl Sagan's death. Where I just felt like he's one of those. He's one of those that is just so not only rare, but needed, I think, to kind of help people understand and enjoy the wonder of these complicated but really magical scientific concepts. Close readers of the latest DvsM 79 will notice that there's a blink if you miss it Gould reference when Dr. Kovitz and Dr. Wagner are talking about how the private sector was starting to outpace them in the field they're in. Kovitz references Germany and Dr. Stephen Jay Gould as people who were getting a little bit ahead of the government work, the secret government work they were doing, and that was unacceptable. That like this is their focus, they're pouring all this money into it, they're getting the best people in the world in theory, like, and to see the private sector pulling ahead of them was not a good sign. Gould's original, I think, PhD work was in evolutionary biology, or developmental evolutionary biology, which is the same field that I decided Dr. Wagner was in. Basically, the idea of what's happening, and this is a gross oversimplification, but how evolution relates to what happens when an embryo is becoming, and all the different things that are occurring during that process, and blah, 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 blah. Again, gross oversimplification. But I liked Gould so much that I found a way, it's like, well, this is his area, and at that time he was doing really cutting edge work, and this is a way for me to throw in a reference to this scientist that I thought was amazing. So anyway, if you ever wanted to read, this was basically his magnum opus after a lifetime of work in that field on evolution. I think he intended it to be like, this brick will be everything I think and know and have studied and have learned about this field. And it's actually, believe it or not, very readable, very enjoyable, and fascinating, and will deepen your understanding of the concept. Again, if you're not intimidated by 1,300 pages. Okay, let's check back in here. Let's see. Let's see, switching duties, looking through that now. Oh, excellent. I knew there was going to be a meeting. My understanding is that Jim Lujan and Paul Pate and Josh Kremble are all going to meet up today, probably in a few hours, which is pretty exciting. Once again, in a car. Let's see here. Mr. Pants, yes. Yeah. Yeah. You don't, why even hide it anymore? Okay. Let's see here. Housekeeping. All 3 DvsMs. 1975 about the Man in Black. 1997 about the Innocent Bystander. And 1979, the newest one, about a scientist in a top secret research facility, are still currently in stock. Inventory is getting, it's not perilously low, but it's getting low. It's getting low enough where what I have been intending, and you might have noticed it this past week, where I was just on more shows and on podcasts. Next week, I'm going to be on Marshall Lee's channel, and maybe another one. I'm waiting to hear back. But my intention for the next couple months is to try to be more out there and promoting DvsM. Stock is getting low enough where it kind of creates a weird little problem, good problem to have, but that if I continue to promote, I might sell out of books sooner than I intended, which means I'd have to reorder sooner than intended, which means I would maybe, depending on how the next few promotion videos go, put a pause on promoting until I have more books. Like, I don't want to be showing up on somebody's show when I have 3 books left, you know, or God forbid sold out. I mean, that's just a lame look. It's like, hey, you know, let me tell you all about my book for an hour. I think you'd really like it. You can't get it right now. Like, it's stupid. So we'll see. But anyway, the reason I bring it up is if you're out there and you're fence sitting, you're waiting, you're not sure yet, I would say, like, you probably should soon place an order. I will be including, for people who get all 3 pack of stickers, highly confidential stickers, in a shiny, high-tech UFO material envelope. You can't really see it in this camera with this lighting, but trust me, it's metallic. You can see it's a very official, confidential sticker. Anyway, the other night when I was on Artcasters, I was bundling envelopes while listening to my friends talk. So those are available, like I said, for people who get all 3 books. Or maybe if you get one and you ask real nicely in the notes, maybe I'll throw one in, whatever. This is limited supply, though. This is all I have, however many are here. I don't know what this is. This is probably like 25 bundles or something. Once these are gone, they're gone. I'll probably come up with some other thing to throw in with books, but it may not be these. I don't know. It's always just a whim. Am I doing business cards? Am I doing stickers? Am I doing magnets? So whatever I'm feeling at the time, I feel like I need to order something. What else? I think that's all the DvsM updates. Let's see here. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to bring up, I almost didn't stream today because it's a weird in-between time. Comic is out. I've been doing a lot of talking on other shows. Other than the 3 books, it's like I don't really have much today. But instead, I decided I'll go on to basically announce that I'll be backing off of the weekly live streams. I don't know how often I'll do a live stream. It'll probably be based on, like, do I have something to talk about? And or has it been a while? I would say the safest assumption is that maybe it'll be like every other week or every 3 weeks. I'm not in production mode right now. I'm gearing up for writing mode. That's not really like it's not like drawing a page where I can go on and talk about drawing. Like writing is, I don't know. I don't know what that content would be. But the main reason I'm going to back off the live streaming is because I have edited videos coming up. And that was the main thing I want. I've talked about this before, but I want to emphasize that. I am chipping away at doing a character creation and analysis video of Dr. Veronica Wagner, the protagonist of DvsM 1979. If you have not already seen them, you should check them out. For each main POV character in DvsM, I do a deep dive video that basically talks about the very earliest conceptions of the character all the way to what you see on the page, and then canon outside the page information about them, what their personal life is like, what their childhood was like, who are their parents, like all that kind of stuff. Like just really getting into everything I can possibly tell you about each particular POV character. The first one I did was Jenny. The second one I did was Ruben. Now I'm going to do one for Dr. Wagner. This is the 17th. I don't know if I'll have it out before the end of the month. It's possible. But it's something like that kind of time frame. I would think at the absolute latest by like Independence Day, something like that. It's just, I haven't started recording any of it yet. It's mostly writing and coming up with like what are the topics I want to hit and how do I want to flow through it, and gathering images that will, be on the screen while I'm talking about it. And it's just kind of figuring out what this thing's going to be and what are the things I most want to talk about in the context of Dr. Wagner. That's coming soon. That takes time. That's kind of where my video effort will be. It'll be less on streaming and more on like these crafted videos. Again, as I've mentioned in the past, I'm going to be doing an Ask Me Anything, which, by the way, I didn't put the link in the description. I'll put it in the comments. If you have a question or questions you would like to submit to me for an Ask Me Anything, whether it's about DvsM in general, DvsM 1979, any other past DvsM, me, my job, art, whatever. Ask me anything. Feel free to submit to can submit questions here. As I think I mentioned last time, by default, all questions will be anonymous. If you want, for some reason, your name attached to a question, you have to tell me in the email. Otherwise, I'm treating them all as anonymous. So there you go. This will be after the Dr. Wagner video. So probably later in July, I'm assuming. And in the meantime, I'm just going to gather as many questions. I've already got a little pile of questions, a good start. But I'm going to get as many as I can before I start actually recording the video. And again, it will be after the Dr. Wagner thing. So those are the next two things. Finally, have a good day, Scott. There's also a silly special project coming up. It'll be a video series. The videos will probably come out. It's in this in-between time of gearing up to start writing and write DvsM number 4. I had an idea for a fun video diversion I could do, sort of a mini series. There'll be a video maybe every 3 weeks, a little short video, 10 to 15 minutes tops, on a topic we will disclose at a later date. But I'm excited about it, and I'm going to start recording footage for it this coming week, a week from today. I've talked to some people about this thing I want to do. It'll be fun and silly and not at all DvsM related. It'll just be weird little extra Gary's life videos in YouTube. What else? So regarding DvsM 4, the way I explained it to Jason Alexander on his channel. By the way, I did a really fun conversation with Jason Alexander, aka Fogbreaker Studios, earlier this week that everyone should check out. And everyone should check out Jason. I really enjoy his content. I really enjoy his work. I wish there was more of it out there. Supposedly there's a book on the way to me, and I can't wait to see it. He did a very nice interview with me. He was very complimentary, and it was fun because we got to go really deep in some specific areas, because that's the kind of reader he is. He sees things and he really wants to drill down, and I love it. So check that out. But anyway, in his video, he was asking, somehow we got on the topic of what's going on with DvsM 4. And the analogy I gave, it's like I'm at the part of building a puzzle where you're finding the corners, you're finding the edges. That's kind of what I'm doing with DvsM 4 right now. As with all the DvsMs, I know my concept. I know what this is. This one is going to be about blank. What I have already disclosed is it'll be focused on soldiers, or because DvsM is a POV comic, one soldier in a small group of soldiers. Beyond that, I'm not ready to talk about the basic plot. Suffice it to say, I do have like a concept. I have some elements, like there's parts where it's like, I think something like this will happen, something like this will happen, this will happen, and then there'll be this. That's all there. But it's still it's still very much like an idea. And I think Keith Foster on Making Comics described it as the cloud gathering phase, where you're just sort of daydreaming about it, playing pretend about it, like, oh, it'd be cool if I did something like that, or oh wait, I just had an idea, and you're like, I'm constantly jotting down notes. That's the stage DvsM4 is in. I have a pile of books over here that I need to read for research mostly to get the soldier stuff right. As I've talked about in past videos, as I was talking about on Jason's video, feel a lot of responsibility to do justice to characters, well, for all my characters, but especially ones that are unlike myself. I was never in the military. I have family members who were, but I wasn't. So I don't have direct experience of that. Just like writing a female character, to me, that increases my feeling of responsibility to get it right. And to do that, there's a bunch of reading I want to do to really start to get a feel, most particularly, like, first of all, what's it like for people who have been through war, especially a modern war. Like, my dad is a vet, but that was the Vietnam War. There's for sure commonalities, but I'm a little more interested in contemporary type military life. And then second, how does a special forces team operate? How do they talk to each other? What are they like? What's the level of camaraderie? Where are their tension areas? Where is it all like a well-oiled machine? Like, I just need a sense of how that all feels. So to show you some, not all, because some would be spoilery, but some of the books that I'll be reading in prep to write DvsM4. Let's see, I have War by Sebastian. I think it's younger, but it could be younger. I'm assuming it's younger, though. I love this author. I've read a couple of his other books. I've not yet read this one. I think this is the one that put him on the map, and then I read everyone since then, but not this original one. I'm going to make sure I'm not lying to you. Yes, over 15 months, Sebastian Junger followed a single platoon based at a remote Afghan outpost. His objective to convey what soldiers experience, what war actually feels like. That's in italics. If that's not a DvsM thing, I don't know what is. Like, what is it actually like? What would it really be like to be in these situations? So I'm very excited about this. I'll be going through it with my highlighter. Let's see, what else can I show you? This was one that I found in my research. Inside Delta Force, the story of America's elite counterterrorist unit. Again, to get that kind of special ops, a feel for that. Sorry if you're a Navy SEAL or a Navy SEAL groupie, but my cursory exploration of this is that I want to pattern my guys more after Delta Force for a couple reasons. First of all, I've kind of established that because we've seen some soldier types in '97, and I patterned them after contemporary Special Forces people, which would have been, I think I was looking at the Black Hawk Down incident, which was mostly Delta Force. I was using that like as my shorthand for like how would these people operate. And so I've already established that maybe there's more of the teams in DvsM are pulled from that pool than from the SEALs. The other reason is, and I don't want to call anybody out because I don't want to start any weird military rivalry things, but there's a podcast I listened to by a couple ex-Special Forces people. One guy was Delta Force and the other guy was Green Beret. And their attitude seems to be that the Navy SEALs are highly overrated and they kind of turn their nose up at them. Like that they get all the attention, but they're not as competent, not as professional, not as whatever. I have no opinion in this. That's their opinion. So anyway, but I enjoyed their podcast enough and felt like I'm going to use them a lot as a reference and their stories and experiences to say that I think my Black Op people in DvsM are closer to their allegiances and closer to Delta Force than they are SEALs. Thus, that. Okay. I got a Kill Bin Laden, kind of a salacious title. about chasing him through Afghanistan, trying to get him in Afghanistan before he slipped away. Let's see here. What else? This was one that, this is well known in the conspiracy community. Behold a Pale Horse by Bill Cooper. Now, just coincidentally, I don't know if I'll try to do some little wink at this. Right now, DvsM number 4 is set in 2001. It had always been planned for 2001. I have a mild hesitation because that puts it in proximity of September 11th. I don't know if I care. To me, that smacks of like, I remember September 11th happened and then the Lord of the Rings movie Two Towers was coming out, and you actually got Nimrod hot takes. It's like, you can't name that movie Two Towers. Like, you got to name it something else because September 11th. I know there's some part of me that's like, if I do 2001, is that too distracting? Not to mention the Kubrick, movie. But I always picked the years very deliberately. There's specific reasons I pick each year. It's always, DvsM 4 has always been 2001 in my notes. It probably will be 2001. But anyway, just by coincidence, Bill Cooper was shot and killed, I think, by ATF or the FBI in 2001. Now, I don't know if this is a hot take with the conspiracy community. Probably had it coming. I don't see this as like a weird government hit. Like, it seems like he was nuttier than a fruitcake and dangerous. Nevertheless, it was also in Arizona that this happened, and all DvsMs are in Arizona. It would be kind of funny to have the soldiers in my story reference the showdown with Bill Cooper. Anyway, Bill Cooper, this is what I will say. I am not co-signing anything in this book. This guy was a nut. And he had a lot of really weird, vaguely racist, very gross ideas about gays and where AIDS came from, and like just all sorts of just weird, shitty kind of positions. But also a lot of weird UFO stuff that, of course, I'm trying to raid like crazy. There's a reason I can't get into, spoiler reasons, but there's a reason I'm interested in every weirdo conspiracy theory while also writing the soldier book. And you'll understand why when you read DvsM number 4, probably DvsM 2001, sometime in 2025. Okay. Let's check in on the chat. Let's see here. Yeah, he did a great job. He's a lot of fun to talk to, too. I mean, he's just... I told him this, I think, on air. I know I've told him off air. I want more Jason content in the world. Like, whatever it is. Talking to creators, talking about his own work, putting out more work, whatever it is. Let's see here. Read Green Berets by Robin Moore. Ooh, I'll write that down. There is also a Green Beret precedent in DvsM, as Man in Black Ruben Garcia is an ex-Green Beret. And I imagine, government being government, when you find successful people in a certain spot, when you get a good apple, you go back to that tree a lot, So I think they might like, look, we've had good luck recruiting people who had this kind of military experience. Let's just keep trying to get those sorts of people. Like, there's a way a trend could start being set where maybe a lot of these guys are coming from the same place. Yes, it's kind of like one of the conspiracy Bible books. And it's like, I view a lot of this stuff, very entertaining. That has nothing to do with whether I believe some or all of it. And also whether some of it isn't like, and I hate this expression, but you know what I mean, #problematic. Like this guy, like I said, my impression is like he's a loon. And loons tend to have weird, crazy, ugly thoughts that are just kind of, ugh, you know. So, but I'm looking forward to reading it. So anyway, yeah, he was 2001, shot to death. It was another one of these Ruby Ridge type things, a standoff in the woods. I to be honest, I don't know the details well enough to say justified shooting versus not. I don't know. The light impression I got from the little bit I've read is that probably justified. But I'm not naive. I'm very open, as we all should be, to the possibility that sometimes people get shot by police or the government or whoever for bad or thin reasons. So, you know, I don't know. My impression, like I said, from my light examination of it was like, sounds like he, to quote the internet, effed around and found out, but we'll see. I don't know. Okay, this book that I have in my hand right now, I'm not going to show you because it'd be a spoiler. Let's see here. I picked up Robert McKee's story, Substance, Structure, Style, and Principles of Screenwriting. So, this is weird to say about your own work. I get pretty decent feedback, like positive feedback about my writing. But you can always be better. And it should be a lifelong learning thing. This is, while Behold a Pale Horse is sort of a conspiracy theory Bible, Robert McKee's story seems to be a screenwriting Bible. And it's more, I actually intend, full disclosure, to kind of blow through this, not to read it super carefully, basically to blow through and look for the things that look useful to me, or that are aha moments or whatever. So obviously I'll be reading this before I start committing to a formal script of DvsM number 4. And then just to recap with everyone, when it comes to DvsM, I write a full script in screenplay format. So that's what I intend to be doing for this. This is another one. This is not really DvsM 1970 or 2001, or AKA DvsM 4 related. 6-figure crowdfunding. A no bullshit guide to running a life-changing campaign. Who doesn't want a life-changing campaign? Nothing is set in stone, but as people who've watched this for a while now, I have been toying with the idea of a Kickstarter for the trade of DvsM Part 1, which would compile 75, 97, and 79 into a perfect bound book with new cover, bonus material, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's still earliest stages. Is that somewhere in my future? Yes. When? I have no idea. I have talked about the end of this year. I don't even know if, like, I'm not even feeling beholden to that. I think it might make more sense to do it in my off year, which would be next year, while basically I'm drawing DvsM 4 and there's not a lot going on. Maybe that would be the time to release a Kickstarter. I don't know yet. I just think this is the only motivation for the Kickstarter. I can envision what a trade for DvsM Part 1 would be and what kind of cool stuff I can put in it. I've already started commissioning original art that would be in this thing. I don't want to have to deal with inventory for 3 different floppies. Okay, if I can compile everything I've done so far into a single book and just only stock that book, that's attractive to me. My impression from people who would know is that trades are far easier to sell, far more popular at cons, far more attractive to people when it comes to sales. I would like to do a Kickstarter once in my life. Okay, so there's all of that. And finally, a perfect bound book with some color that would be a minimum 160 pages. That's just if I just combined the first 3 and didn't add any bonus material, which I would intend to add bonus material. So minimum 160 pages. That becomes expensive, especially if I want to say order 100 or 200 or 300 and have them for a while, you know, and sell that for a while. Like that's an expensive proposition. I normally self-fund my printing. Self-funding the printing of a trade is not attractive to me. I've gone through the calculators to see like about how much would that be, and it's not cheap. That's why I would Kickstart. So with all of that, it sounds like, okay, so Kickstarter is happening. Well, maybe, but I've never done one before. And you know, there's that question of like, who would show up? Have I done enough work where I feel like it could be successful and get the amount of money that I think where it makes sense? I don't know. I haven't done any of that stuff. I don't have a mailing list. So that's why it's still kind of far off. I would think the soonest I would attempt something like a Kickstarter would probably be holidays this year. But like I said, I'm liking more and more just because of how fuzzy my thinking is about it. I like the idea maybe that it would be more of a spring or summer thing next year. If I do it at all, I don't know. Maybe I would forego the trade and just do the trade when I get all 6 done. I don't know. But anyway, something to read in the meantime to get Kickstarter tips, in addition to picking the brains of everybody I know who's done a Kickstarter. Like Scott Lust, like Keith Foster, like Scott Cirkland. Like, I mean, I have a lot of friends who have done this. And I'm sure they have great advice, but it would just be trying to build my knowledge base and really get a bead on what's the best way to do this. Let's see here. Yes. Yeah, he's done a few Kickstarters. And he always says, well, I suspect, actually, I don't suspect, I know for sure, Scott Cirkland has a much larger audience and a much larger following on YouTube. And I think, I know, a much larger like mailing list built out. Like he can put a bunch, he probably is putting hundreds of people on blast when he sends out a newsletter. And he has got a Patreon. Like he has all these things, you know, these audiences that he can go to when he has a Kickstarter to draft into the cause. Where I have this channel and Instagram and, you know, the 2 or 3 places I pop up most often, like Making Comics, Artcasters, and Crimson Owl, really. So it's like comparatively a very small presence. And as I think came up in the Artcasters the other night, the thing that I'm worst at in this whole endeavor is promotion and getting out there and selling my goods. It's never been comfortable to me. It's not something I particularly enjoy. It's a conversation I was having with Scott Lost when he was out here for Fan Fusion. If I'm into it, no one works harder than me, in my opinion. I think anyone who's picked up a DvsM can agree. Like, I'm not afraid of hard work. If I'm not into it, I'm the laziest MFer you'll ever meet. Like, I just cannot be bothered. And it's like dealing with sleepy teenager to get me to do something when I'm not feeling it. I recognize this about myself. It's not something I'm proud of. It's the way I am. And that's kind of how I am with like the PR and the marketing and everything else. I think sometimes I race into a new project or the next book, if for no other reason than to not have to do promoting the old one. Like it's more comfortable for me just to like move on and start something new. This is something I need to figure out, but I do need a mailing list. Corey Kerr, how's it going? Let's see here. Both do Kickstarter. Both Scots. Or wait. About all the covers from his last one. Yeah, I'm very proud of my complete collection of custom The Young and the Dead covers. I was, Scott. Speak of the devil and he appears. There's a whiff of sulfur, a poof, and there's Scott Circlin. By the way, his new video series begins Tuesday? I believe it's Tuesday. I believe it was the 20th. I have gotten the sneak preview. I've seen his first video, or at least a cut of, I don't know if he's made any changes, but a cut of the first video. And you're all in for a treat, especially if you, like me, have been missing a weekly Scott Circlin video. So it's bigger and better than ever. A comparison I think I gave somewhere, I don't remember where it was. It's like watching that first one, it felt like a cable channel had discovered Scott and said, we like what you're doing. We want to take it to, the next level, and we're going to help you, get all your production value and everything really slick. That's what it's like. It's like that. It feels, his previous videos were already great, but it feels like a very legit, new, professional thing. But with all the fun and silliness and art stuff that you liked about his previous content. So look forward to it. Let's see here. Yes. Okay. See, Substack. See, there's all these things. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not ready for a Kickstarter yet. There's all sorts of foundational stuff I think I need to do to have a very successful Kickstarter. And if I was going to be kickstarting a trade, like I see other people doing Kickstarters for like $500 or $1,000. That's not going to do it. Like if I'm going to actually do a trade, the way I envision it, the way I would like to do it, where it feels like a nice, legit, high quality thing and is attractive and interesting and has enough bonus stuff in it and new stuff in it to entice people who already have the original floppies, where they feel like, no, I kind of want that too. It's like, I think we're talking like a $3 or $4 or $5 grand Kickstarter. And that's, that's daunting for someone who's never done a Kickstarter. So, and look, for a lot of people, that's no big deal. I've never done one before. I would want to get all my ducks in a row and feel like I have done everything right to increase the odds of a success. And that's why the idea of doing it in like 4 months is ridiculous. Like, I think I need time to kind of really study and think and start building an audience that would show up. Yeah. It's not something I want that experience once. It's 2023. I've never done a Kickstarter. I think at least once I would like to do a Kickstarter just to say I did it, if for no other reason. But from you, Scott Lost, Keith, like everyone else I know who's done a Kickstarter, it doesn't sound like I'm not excited to do it. I think it's just something I feel like I should look into. Mr. Salazar? Yes, I agree. Let's see here. It is a little bit like that. Yeah, I was a little worried about him. I felt like maybe there should be a welfare check. Like we should send the cops by to knock on this door. I suspect lots of people were saying it. You probably just didn't hear it. So, I mean, you had a lot of subscribers, and I think a lot of people took for granted that there would always be a weekly video, and then there wasn't, and disappointed some people, I'm sure. Okay. So, is that everything? Let's see here. Dr. Wagner video, maybe around the end of the month or early next. Ask Me Anything video. Submit your questions to my Gmail, which is in the comments. Or just message me wherever you can get me. It doesn't really matter. Secret Silly video short series. Taping begins a week from today. Release TBD. Probably around the same time as the character video. End of the month, early next month. Starting research on DvsM number 4. Again, for timeline of 4, I'm still thinking by the end of this year, by the time holidays come, I would like to have a final draft script written. Maybe all my research done. And if I'm really swinging for the fences, I think maybe not only all the thumbnails, but the page planner. Like, I think I would really be basically set to start doing reference photos and drawing. Like, that would be all that's left. Take a hiatus for the holidays. And then hopefully, like, this is my ideal. Come January, shoot some reference models and maybe start drawing page 1. The latest I would want to be drawing the next one would be like March of next year, because I really am set on like a new DvsM every other year until I'm done. So that's why this is what's informing the timeline. I would like to be ready to start drawing early next year. Early being like not summer, like sometime before that. So no matter how long it is, and hopefully it's not as long as 79, I'm finishing sometime in like mid 2025, and it is coming out mid 2025, somewhere in there. And then just this process repeats. Take the rest of, kind of just like this year. Release the next one in 2025, take the rest of 2025 mostly off, maybe start playing with the story, be drawing the next one in 2026. DvsM number 5 comes out 2028. Like, you know what or 2020. I think that's, what am I doing? 27. You know what I'm doing. Anyway, every other year, new book until we're done. That's the plan. I think it's doable. I'm also going to pad it a little bit. Something I talked about at Artcasters the other night. Because DvsMs are so long and it's so exhausting, drawing a book, a page a week for 60 weeks, like it's hard. I'm going to be looking at maybe doing a schedule of drawing 3 weeks, 1 week break, drawing 3 weeks, 1 week break for the next one. Try and like, and for that free week, if I'm feeling good, if I'm feeling rested, if I'm excited to start the next page, well, then maybe I go ahead and start the next page. But just allow in the schedule. So when I have a timeline in mind of like, I'll be done on this date, I'll be done either on that date or much earlier. But I'll just take it like every 4th week. Like, what do I want to do on this? Do I want to rest? Do I want to just go ahead and start the next page? Do I want to circle back and maybe change the layout of a future page? Do I want to work on a SketchUp model? Do I want to reshoot some reference stuff? Do I want to, like, you know, just give myself more room, like more breathing room, and also sanity room. So I'm not just all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. You know, when you're doing things like this, I think Josh Kemble knows this better than anyone right now. Jack Nicholson in The Shining is never far from your mind. There's just like, this is, you have to, you're just trying to stay on the bull. The bull is kicking and spinning and going side to side and trying to knock you off. You're just trying to stay on it. Staying on the bull for 60 weeks, no matter how well it goes, no matter how righteous your mental health kung fu is a drain. What's preferable is maybe staying on the bull 3 weeks at a time for a year, like something like that. That's way more manageable. Sounds better. This is probably what I'm going to be trying with the next one. And I suspect DvsM 4 is not going to be as long as this. I know my story. I know what the main beats are. I believe very strongly DvsM 79 is the longest DvsM of all of them. I can't, now I don't think DvsM 4 will be the shortest. I still think 75 will probably be the shortest. The last one could be shortest too, or about as long as 75. But the way and I've been wrong before, but the way I'm picturing DvsM 4 in my head, I'm thinking it's probably like a 45 or 50 page book. Okay. So we'll see. Proof is in the writing. Like once I have the script and then start paneling it out and figuring out how many panels do I have, then I have a better sense of like how many pages is this book going to be. I've said this before, but I just can't imagine how it ends up as long as this. It can't be longer because this is as long as Comics Wellspring will do a saddle stitch book. This is the maximum page length for saddle stitching. So it can't be longer, but I don't think it's even going to be, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think it's going to be, again, 45, 50 pages. Just my gut. We'll find out. I'll be able to tell you definitively how long it is later this year. Once the script is written, once I've thumbnailed it, once I have a panel count, even if I haven't done the page layout, I can usually, there's a math thing, you can ballpark probably this many pages. And I'm usually pretty accurate with that. Once I have the panel count, I can ballpark the page count. And then even after I do layouts, it might be off a few pages, but that's basically right. So that's, but I'm also, this next one will be a real test in efficient writing for me, because I'm going to have more characters than I've ever had in DvsM. And I'm not going to have the luxury of letting each one have a Jenny-sized chunk of space to convey to the reader who they are. It's going to have to be very distilled, dense, high octane, high impact bits of character work where you get a lot very fast. It'll be, like I said, a necessity because I'm going to have 5 or 6 guys in this next one. I don't have the luxury of just writing a whole story for each one and telling the reader that story for each one. It needs to be sharp, still, get to the point. You really quickly get a sense of this person. If I do that effectively, which I have to, because it can't be that long, it should be a book that moves. It should be a book that moves pretty snappily, but we'll see. Let's see here. Where are we at? That's right. Frank is doing a comics zine workshop at his local library. So wish him luck. Yes, it certainly does. Josh, if you had the time to spare, which you don't, it would be kind of funny if you did one of your live streams, and instead of drawing, like seeing the page, you're just writing "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy" over and over and over, like The Shining. Just never reference it. Just do your normal stream. Talk about whatever pops into your head. Greet people in the chat. Ignore any questions about what you're doing. Just act like you don't even see them. And just, it'd be pretty great. Let's see here. In row 5. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, Frank, is it your birthday Monday? Oh, well, look at that. Happy early birthday, Frank. Wow. Okay. I think it's only been an hour, but like I said, I don't have a lot today. It's mostly just to tell you about where we're going next. Next weekend probably will not be a live stream. I will probably use next Saturday to really get some work done on the Dr. Wagner video. Work has already started, chipping away at it, but that will be, since I won't be live streaming, I'll probably have breakfast, get coffee, sit down, and really start hacking together, like, this is what I think the character video will be. That's about all I've got. Anyone have anything we want to promote, push, suggest? Again, I'll keep banging on about this. If you have any questions for a future Ask Me Anything, submit it to my Gmail or wherever else you find me, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Like I said, I've got a good start. I think I've got like maybe almost a dozen questions, but more is better. I can't have too many questions. So lines up the live stream open here. If not, saying there we go. Okay. You're welcome, DV. All right. I think that's all I've got today. Maybe I'll even do a little bit of Dr. Wagner video work right now. Why not? Okay. Have a good rest of the weekend. Good luck on your individual projects. Josh, drive safe. I'm jealous. You get to see Mr. Pate and Mr. Lujan. I hope to see a picture of the 3 dudes together. And then, like I said, look forward to Scott's new video next week. And try to catch me on Marshall Lee's channel. I'll be on Tuesday. I don't know if we've set a time yet. Or if I know for sure time, but it'll be whenever he normally does his streams, probably like, it seems like it's like maybe 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Anyway, I'll be on his show. The plan is to be on his show Tuesday, talking about DvsM or whatever he wants to talk about. Let's see here. Just want to take this comments over me. All right, someone mod Frank, please. Okay. All right, guys. I will see you whenever, but not next weekend. DvsM is on sale. Check it out. Tell your friends. We're going to work on a Dr. Wagner video. It's going to be great. See you soon. Maybe catch you on Marshall Lee's channel.